I'm back for another Let's Meet one of the Marvel characters. This is, if you can see on the front, Beta Ray Bill. He actually appeared in Nova, who was the previous one we looked at. Now, I wasn't familiar with the character until I got the comic book, and my first thought was, where's the dog wearing Thor's costume? Because then I realised it was more an equestrian, so more like a horse with very, very sharp teeth. Anyway, so I finally found the concept of Beta Ray Bill, an alien with the ability to effectively become Thor, to be quite interesting. Nice to see his origins. I've just opened you can see how early it was with the artwork, quite one of the older ones back in Thor. Um, I was a little bit confused with the whole Force secret or mortal identity, as it seemed to be that either he knew who he was or his other personality. It wasn't really very clear because there was not very much about Thor himself in Donald Drake in the characters, like in his Earth or Midgardian persona. Anyway, so the first comic book of this, it was quite interesting. It did a good job of showing Beta Ray Bill. When I read the information at the back, it was indicated that the original creator had wanted someone who you weren't sure was a good guy or a bad guy. The image on the cover on here makes it quite clear he's one of the good guys. But on first appearance, yeah, he looks pretty scary. And even I was like, I don't know if this is a good guy, if this is a bad guy. I know he's eventually a good guy, but does he start out as a villain or does he start out as a hero? So that was quite interesting to see, and to see him and Thor battling it out and actually have him able to beat Thor. Um, yeah, so that was good to see. The second set of comics, the Stormbreaker, the saga of Beta Ray Bill, quite a bit darker, and of course it takes place as Asgard is effectively ending. So it's almost this from the start of the second set of comics. It's completely dark. It's completely it doesn't let up really. There's no lighter side. There's no relaxing of the tension. You start off with one villain, and then you have Asgard losing hope, Thor sending Bill away to protect him, but also to make sure that Asgard and their people are not forgotten. And then you have Bill returning to his people only to find that the new planet they found was under attack, and that the people there, his people, have had to flee the planet because Galactus is going after them. And Galactus is quite clearly one of the big bad guys, no matter what it says, that he's a necessary part of the world, which I don't really think that obviously each to their own, and his herald had quite a lot of interesting points to him. Didn't really seem like that way at first, but as he and Bill started interacting a bit more, it was like there was a little bit more depth to the character, to the villain. Still didn't really see anything like that with Galactus, but he was, yeah, he was his herald was just that like slight bit more interesting. And then, of course, you have the whole two enemies having to team up to battle, a bigger bad, which is quite common. I've noticed in the Marvel universe. It's almost like these you get these the big enemies, the big bads that bring these two enemies together, and that was quite good. But it was good because the Herald didn't really seem like a good guy, but at the same time they had to work together. And there was a complete lack of hope right at the start of that, and it kind of like there wasn't very much hope carrying on, and when it seemed like things weren't so bad, something else came up and it just got worse. And then um, yeah, and it was quite sad to see the memories of what had happened to the Corbynites, to Bill's people, the fact that yeah, some of them were saved in this big dome, but others were forced to fight, and they weren't given the choice, which I felt like they were deceived. They were told they were going to be saved, and then they were drafted into the military, into the army, but not given any choice. It was like, oh, this is going to happen. We're expecting you to sacrifice yourselves for the rest of your people. And to be honest, I didn't really think much of the military after that. I didn't think much of the priests in the first place, but no, the military just kind of went completely downhill after all of the flashbacks. Um, the use of the flashbacks was quite good. If I see if I can find it in here, um, in that the actual image is very different. It's oh, like it feels like a flashback. It's quite obvious even without the this happened. Oh yeah, you might be able to see here. So on this page, this is the flashback. There's a distinct lack of colouring in comparison to this page, which is during the present time. So I like the different style. I like but also it feels very much like there's no hope. It's something that you're watching in the past. It does feel, or reading in the past. It does feel like it happened quite a long time ago, or a long time in relation to where the comic book is set and when it is set. The very last comic book in here, let's see if I can find it, has a very different feel to it as well. I mean, in comparison to it being in space, you've got here Spider Man on Earth, New York City, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but yeah, suddenly Bill ends up there, and it's not very clear what happened. It just literally goes from this battle between Astaroth, main big bad, and Bill, and then suddenly Bill is in the body of a human who just died, suddenly on Earth, and it's not really very clear how that happened or what led up to it. And even as he's sitting there talking to Spider Man and talking about what happened, it's still not exactly clear. So anyway, yeah, so it's left a lot of questions at the end. There are there are a few hints of relationships and friendships that Bill had formed with the Asgardians, so like Sif and also with Thor, but there was very little actually shown about that. Would have been nice to see some of this whole oath brother relationship. What I did also like was at the beginning being able to see Loki in the comic book as well. Loki in Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of my favorite characters, but I haven't really seen enough of him to make that to make a judgment over whether I like him or not in the comic books. I think in films he has a lot more depth to him. You don't really get to see so much of in the comics, and I think it would be nice to see a comic book or later one that I might actually show him in a little bit more detail because well, I've been getting comic books about the villains, so might as well have Loki on. He's one of the villains who should have the most amount of depth to him, at least from the hints that I see of him appearing in other comic books. And if they're gonna make comic books about Venom and about the Green Goblin and market them as Marvel's mightiest heroes, as you might be able to see on here, then why not Loki? Why not some of the others who have more depth to them? But yeah, going slightly off topic there. So yes, I like the comic book. I like Beta Ray Bill. I enjoyed meeting him for the first time in Nova's book and getting to then see hit something of his origin, see something of his background. and maybe not so much any details about his hammer, Stormbreaker, but it was interesting to see him, to see the character, to see the formation of a hero who, well, as was written at the back, someone who actually isn't handsome, actually kind of looks like a monster, but is still quite clearly one of the good guys, which just shows that you can't always judge by appearances, and it's nice to see that this does that. Nice to see that it shows that. So yeah, so this is actually volume number 78 in the Marvel's Mightiest Heroes graphic novel collection. It now has gone up to about 124, 125 in total. There's the volumes I've got, but we've still got even more as some of them are actually volume 134, 135. So there's still a lot more to go. So next review, next meeting of a character, we're probably going to do that, say, on Wednesday at 11 p.m. UK time. If you have anyone who you'd like to meet, who you'd like me to talk about, feel free to leave a comment about it. And yeah, we will catch up then. And in the meantime, check out Beta Ray Bill. You can probably see him in, well, it says for number 337 and 338 is in this, but you probably get him in the later comics as well. And then you've got Stormbreaker, the saga of Beta Ray Bill, which presumably there are more comics than that. So yeah, personally, I would eventually seek out more comic books about him, like to learn more about him and see also how he interacts with more characters than just Spider-Man and briefly with Thor. The first comic book is Thor and him fighting. He briefly meets Odin, who didn't really think much of Odin, to be quite honest. I mean, why would you tell your son to fight to death and expect that one of them is going to die when you know that neither of them are the bad guys? So yeah, I did not like Odin at all in this. Sif, I thought wasn't really a very strong character in the first comic book. I would have liked to see more of her as a strong female character rather than just I wanted Thor to come back to Asgard and we were promised to each other. The films, I think, did a lot better at showing her as a strong female character, except for the fact that she doesn't appear in later films, which not even mentioned. So I felt like that was very disappointing, and she should have been, at the very least, if she wasn't going to be on Asgard, she should have been mentioned. Where was she? Why was she not there? Why are so many of the female characters just disappearing? I mean, you've got Tony Stark, who he breaks up with Pepper, but you don't see this. You just hear about it, and then randomly in Spider-Man: Homecoming, they're back together. And again, this all happened off screen. And same with Thor and Jane Foster. Suddenly they're broken up, but there's no details about why or when it happened or anything. So yeah, Marvel, come on, just stop writing out the female characters. Just at least mention that they exist instead of just breaking them up for no apparent reason. So yeah, I will see you guys on Wednesday about 11 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the next couple of days until then. Bye!